Okay, I'll try and make this brief. I'll give you a general overview for those of you who are not familiar with fisheries in Antigua and Barbuda. For the most part, Antigua and Barbuda has a very extensive island shelf. It's one of the largest in the Eastern Caribbean. Hence, much of the resources that we actually target are basically demersals. We're talking about conch, lobster, reef fish, deep water snappers. With respect to the fleet itself, it's small scale in nature, but at the same time, much of it is modern. For instance, some of the gears, you might have snapper reels. Most vessels would have depth sounders, GPS, fish finders. And in terms of infrastructure, you would have the rural traditional beaches as well as fisheries complex. In terms of capture production, over the years, our production has been increasing, but much of the production has been market driven. For most, I would say, for Antigua and Barbuda and a lot of the other OECS countries, factors such as stayover arrivals impact demand, and that ultimately has an impact on the levels of production. A lot of this is highlighted, say, for instance, production increase in 2000, leading up to World Cup cricket in 2007. And conversely, in the case of when you have economic shocks, such as the great financial crisis and global recession, you also see a decline in production. If you look on the graph, you'll also note that, based on the particular species in question, you'd have a response. For instance, if you 2007, 2008, 2009 and stuff, luxury goods such as Caribbean spiny lobster production would go down, and then you will see a shift in effort to, say, for instance, conch, which for the most part we consider it a normal good, in that it's basically sold at the same price as mixed fish. You should also be aware, this is an issue I was hoping to see a lot more presentation looking at the link between fisheries and other sectors and how this impact on fishing effort and ultimately production. For much of the Eastern Caribbean, our domestic output is strongly positive in terms of world output, particularly for the developed countries such as UK, US, because those are the bulk of our tourism arrivals. In terms of aquaculture, it's a budding sector. There are a number of issues. I wouldn't go into all of that, but issues in terms of, while there are legal provisions for, say, for instance, leasing seabed in the case of sea moss production, the other challenges we face is that would require a greater emphasis on marine spatial planning and coastal zone management is the impact of stakeholders. For instance, you would invest heavily in a particular, say, for instance, sea moss cultivation, and then you have a major tourism development setup next door. So you have all these factors taking place. We always have to remember that, the ocean is a dynamic environment. The sector decline in 2020, as you would realize from the global pandemic, and continued further to decline in 2022. Much of this was related to some of the individuals that were involved for food production started to switch to the production of ornamentals. In 2021, we had our first freshwater prawns and crayfish farm in Antigua and Barbuda. That's just coming on stream, and it holds a lot of potential given that we tend to import a lot of, for instance, a lot of crayfish and other small crustaceans for the tourism sector. In terms of key development, with respect to fisheries governance and management, we have moved over the years from a top-down to a bottom-up approach to fisheries management, where we use various forms of co-management, whether it be consultative, collaborative, or delegated, as in the case of Barbuda, where the Barbuda Council have their own set of regulations in addition to the overarching Fisheries Act. There's a limited entry management regime because we recognize the need to be able to control fishing effort for certain species, as well as other provisions such as close seasons, gear restrictions, restrictions on the number of nets, and approval for certain types of gear such as beach seine. Other areas where we have actually focused on with respect to sustainability, there's a national plan of action to deal with IUU. We're hoping to upgrade that shortly since there's now a regional plan of action at the Western Central Atlantic fisheries level. We also hope to actually expand our CAT certification program to focus more on bringing hotels and restaurants on board. I mean, looking at using measures such as having a list of approved suppliers, and we hope to collaborate with them in terms of ensuring that we address all areas when it comes to IU, both external and internal. With respect to gear, where we move to biodegradable panels, so for instance, to address issues such as ghost fishing, that is in an early stage of rollout, but hopefully by the end of 2024, every gear that's placed in the water will be registered, and those, in the case of traps, would also have biodegradable panels. In the area of resilience, we have synergized our policies between social protection and fisheries in that, for instance, individuals have to be registered with Social Security, medical benefits, educational level before they can be registered as a fisher. In regards to SPS, we have had, as of January 23, we have a new seafood regulation as well as lobster seafood technical regulations. This focus, a lot of it has an emphasis on mandatory training in quality assurance, HACCPs, sanitation, standard operation procedures, good manufacturing practices throughout the value chain. In terms of way forward, we're looking to strengthen collaboration, focusing a lot on citizen science and stewardship, particularly in the areas of, for instance, co-management of certain new resources that we have. In the case of, we're also looking to expand our MPAs and marine protected areas. We're currently looking at Redonda Island and its waters to preserve biodiversity, as well as enhancing the pelagic fisheries, both at the commercial level as well as the recreational level, looking at the benefits that we can get, the economics, the maximum economic services from the various resources. In terms of strengthening resilience and securing livelihood, the government is planning to actually look at, through the Ministry of Finance, purchasing the coast insurance scheme so that we can, when there are disasters, fisher folks can quickly get back out and fly their trade, as well as looking at mitigation measures and the use of early warning systems. Other areas we have also worked on as part of our fisher folks development program is based on the joint joint plan that was actually developed on the CRFM in terms of fisheries development, which has its genesis in Dominica, is look at other areas in which we can enhance participation in the sector as well as provide training. For instance, we need to actually scale up youth participation as well as gender mainstreaming in fisheries. That would require collaboration with social protection, labor, youth affairs, and gender. I think that's about it. Any questions? And thanks for listening.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. Makiba Felix from St. Lucia. I just wanted to know, how successful has the biodegradable panels been in terms of their lifespan? Because we are also trying it in St. Lucia, and I just wanted to know, how has it worked so far for you?
It has worked well. We're just looking at, as part of another new project coming on, we're looking to expand the range of materials that we actually use to secure the panels. We've had a number of meetings with a focus group that we're actually testing. Now we're looking to scale it out at a broader level on the southern side of the island, fisher folks on the southern side of the island.
Okay.
I
Thank
can
you.
also
Understood.
share the information with you. It's
Yes, please.
not a problem.